I have spent a significant part of my career making sure that our border is secure and that we do not allow criminals in, and we don't allow that kind of trafficking to happen and come into our country. That our border is secure.
That our border is secure.
That our border is secure.
Up until about the end of 2020, I felt like the feds had a pretty good handle on what was going on at the border. It wasn't perfect, but it was fairly effective. And in the last 2 years, it's like the wheels have come off and the rest of the world knows it. And so it's frustrating to watch people on the national news sit at a podium in Washington and say the border is secure, and it's absolutely not. My name is Eric Kaiser. I'm the police chief in Jourdanton, Texas, where I've been for about 22 years. I'm probably like a lot of other people that you know, married. I've got 3 kids. I've got 3 grandkids. I'm real involved in their lives and the things that they do, and really enjoying my newfound role here the last few years as a grandfather. But still have a passion for law enforcement, so I'm not done yet. Growing up, I had lots of friends whose parents were in the law enforcement field, and it just always enamored me. And then later in life, I met a guy that worked for the San Antonio Police Department who really encouraged me, if I had that passion, to pursue it. And I ended up doing it and worked in South Texas my whole career. And this is where we call home and intend to stay. Crime is never going to go away, and there's never going to be a time where I feel like police officers and law enforcement's not going to be needed. But what that crime looks like kind of morphs from generation to generation. And we're about 30 minutes south of San Antonio, Texas. So we deal with some of the things that bleed over from a major metropolitan city. And as a rural county of roughly 50,000 people, we also deal with the things coming up from south of us. We're roughly an hour and a half north of the Mexican border. So that border crisis issues that everybody's dealing with, they have their effect on us as well. Our officers are encountering, astronomical numbers of stolen vehicles, and there seems to be a pattern of vehicles that get stolen, usually trucks, taken south to the border where they're loaded up with illegal aliens and then smuggled north to San Antonio or Austin or anywhere north of the border. So we encounter those just nonstop, those stolen vehicles. Usually that means that there's human smuggling going on, and there's also drug smuggling and other types of things that go along with that too. Sometimes they go hand in hand. Cartels are into making money. They're a business, so if they can make money off of hauling drugs or hauling people or whatever it takes, they're gonna take advantage of that. And right now, we have a wide open border that's just an invitation to the criminal community to come make money while the making is good. I mean, our goal at the end of the day is to protect the citizens and residents of our community. And when we have a human smuggling situation where people have bailed out into a neighborhood or something similar to that, we want to make our residents know that they're safe. So getting those people into Border Patrol hands or into custody if they're the ones that are actually doing the smuggling, or we can charge them with a crime, those things are very important to us. And then we also have those instances where we encounter people that are being smuggled that are not in a safe situation, that haven't ate in days or haven't had any water in the last 24 hours. And you intercept those, and the humanity side of us just wants to make sure that we're treating people fairly, and regardless of why they're here, how they got here, we're glad that we're able to maybe save somebody from an even grimmer future than what would have happened had we not intercepted them. We're a small agency. Our town is only about 4,000 people, 10 police officers. But the cross section of those officers is varied. I mean, we have guys that are in their 20s and 30s that are probably what people think of when they think of a Texas police officer, and we've got female officers. We've got one of our female officers was born in Mexico and is a naturalized American citizen, so she has a unique perspective on the border crisis, and it's interesting to get those other perspectives as a police chief, to take those into account as you go through planning how we're going to handle these situations. It's no secret that I'm a big supporter of the Second Amendment. I think that it was put in the Constitution for a reason, and I don't think that you have to twist the words to come up with what it means. It's pretty clear what it means. I think it's in our part of Texas, it's very important that we respect it. And I encourage people to exercise those rights, especially in the climate that we live in with the issues at the border. I spend quite a bit of time outdoors on ranches, and I wouldn't go out in those places unarmed, knowing what's going on today. And I tell that to people who live in those environments. You know, if you're going to go feed cattle, or you're going to go out looking for deer, or whatever it is you're doing, make sure that you're armed, because it's important these days. It's just, unfortunately, we live in an era where ultimately you are responsible for your own safety. You know, we want to do everything we can to protect the public, but we can't be everywhere at once. And at the end of the day, you're responsible for your safety. I'm responsible for my safety, and any legal tools that are out there to help you accomplish your goal of going home safely, I'm 100% in support of. I think that for those that don't live in Texas or Arizona or some of the places near the border, I don't know that they're getting a clear picture of what's actually happening down here. We're getting roughly 250,000 to 300,000 people cross the border every month. And that's a big number. But to put some perspective on it, a city the size of Corpus Christi, Texas, that's a Corpus Christi, Texas every month being added to our state. And granted, all those people don't stay in Texas, but the impact that that's going to have on this country long term is huge. I think that this border crisis is the biggest issue that my generation will have to deal with, and the long-term effects of what it brings. And I don't know that the rest of the country that's not near the border is getting to see that. But I'm glad to see you and other people in the media industry starting to maybe open their eyes a little bit to what's going down, because I think it is important for the people in other parts of the country to see what's going on down here. Right now, there's so many people from so many parts of the world that are coming across the border. It's not just people from Mexico coming into Texas or Arizona. It's not just people coming over because they want to work the fields and pick crops. That's not what the concern is. The concern is all of these people from every country in the world, people from the Middle East that are on the terrorist watch list, people who've been convicted of serious crimes in the country that they came from, and now they're coming into our country. They're coming in secretly for a reason. There's a reason why they're not coming in legally. It's because they know that they wouldn't be able to otherwise. My fear is what does that look like a year from now? What does it look like when we get numbers that now are no longer controllable? I mean, we can't control right now even what's happening right at the border, but for years the government said there's roughly 11 million illegals in the country. The real number is probably around 30 million. And at some point, that's going to have an effect that we can't fix. And so it's been a tough 2 years up until about the end of 2020. I felt like the feds had a pretty good handle on what was going on at the border. It wasn't perfect, but it was fairly effective. And in the last 2 years, it's like the wheels have come off, and the rest of the world knows it. And so it's frustrating to watch people on the national news sit at a podium in Washington and say the border is secure, and it's absolutely not. When we have leaders like the FBI director tell us that terrorists have very likely crossed into our country illegally, we're not hearing anything we don't already know. Those of us down here closer to the border, we know that is the case. And the fear becomes, what is their ultimate goal? Because there's just no way to track all of these people, even the ones that get caught and get a court date that's years out. There's no way to track them, much less the ones that are terrorists and are working to stay hidden. As a father and a grandfather, I'm concerned for what does that look like for my kids, and what does that look like for your kids and your grandkids. And the United States is full of soft targets, and as many bad things as we've had happen here, we still haven't got a real hold on how to protect a lot of these soft targets like schools and shopping malls and stadiums. And not that people aren't trying. I'd hope that we're able to somehow effectively combat this and do it now and not wait for the next 5 years or 10 years to realize it's a problem after the fact.